So it's interesting. As Kevin said, the lyrics were written by Peggy Lee. Most of you know. Everybody knows who Peggy Lee is? Fever? Fever, exactly. Right. Next week is Fever. It's interesting how when the music and the lyric comes together, as it does in this song, there's really no difference between the lyricist and the composer, because together they have created this one amazing piece. And there's a lyric in the song, and Peggy Lee, by the way, was quite, obviously Paul Horner has been a religious scientist forever, but Peggy was too. And she was very, very integral in moving New Thought forward. In many of the lectures she gave and in the songs she sang. Even if you think about that one song, Is That All There Is? Remember that? That sentence alone, that's what she was constantly exploring. Is that all there is? Is this all there is? Is this what it's all about, this? So there's a lyric in the song, and it's this: there is more than wings on birds that make them fly. Now just think about that for a second. We tend to think in a physical sense it's the wings on the bird that make it fly. But what's behind the wing making the wing fly? Because if you took the wing off and just laid it down, it's not going to fly. Something else is at play here. There's something going on that is more than just what we see. So what is that? What is this more that Peggy Lee was talking about? Let me get my slide thing so Thor doesn't have to do this. So what is that more that she's talking about? So our theme this year and this month is, or our logo, our jargon is, be the more in 24. But if you're going to be the more, you kind of have to know what the more is, right? So what is the more? What is it that's behind all of this? You know, what is it that made you all stand at the end of that song? Yes, it was Paul's song and Peggy's song. Yes, it was Kevin's amazing voice. And yes, it was the addition of the 3 silent singers over here. Right? And then put them all together, and it's all of those parts. But what is it really? What's behind that? What causes all of that to happen? That's the business we're in here, just in case you didn't know. What the Global Truth Center and churches around the world are all about. It's about delving into something that you can't see. It's about the intangible. It's about what's behind all of this. And we get so caught up in what's in front of all of this that we lose our way. And we let those things that are going on in our lives affect us. We react to it, good or bad or indifferent. And yet, what's behind it is infinite in scope. It never changes. So, as I said, the ministerial students came up with some themes for the year. I'm going to read some of them for you. Choose them if you like. One of them was make 24 like never before. That's a good one, right? I don't remember who said these. If you do, Thor, yell them out. That wasn't yours, was it? No. And then there's this one. Start for more in 24. Was that yours, Thor? Yes. Okay, then this one. Ready? Opening doors in 24. Yes? Good one? Okay. Let go and soar in 24. How about that one? Good one? Okay, good. And then the last one I'm going to do, which is kind of my favorite. Hear me roar in 24. Who wants to roar in 24? Yeah. Is Francisco here? He's not here today. That was his. No, he's not in France. He's still here. So last week I asked you a couple of questions. I said, what do you want to do with what's before you? Remember me asking you that question? What do you want to do with what is before you in this world? And then I also asked you, what do you want to not do with what's in front of you? What do you want to let go of? And we just did that with Mindy. What do you want to surrender? And then I asked you to look, do you have anything in your life that when you look back, you would like a do-over? And then I suggested there's no such thing as a do-over because you can't go back in time unless you're, Doctor Who in the TARDIS. You can't go back in time and do something over. So I wanted to reframe that from a do-over to do it again. Do it again, differently. Do it the way you want to do it, the way you wanted to do it, or the way you now know you would like to do it. So it was from do-over to do it again. So when I left here on Sunday, I knew what was in front of me. I knew that 48 hours later, I'd be laying in an operating room being operated on. So that was Tuesday. And I knew that. I knew at the end of 23 how 24 was going to start. Now, the thing is, if you step away from the word surgery and you step away from hospital and doctor and cutting and all the stuff that went on, what you really get is I was going to start 24 clearing the decks. They were going to roto-rooter me into perfect flow. That's my science of mind way of looking at it. But we don't always go to the science of mind way, do we? So Monday was fine, New Year's Day was fine, and I was like, okay, this is good. I'm going to get it over with. I'm going to be done. I'm going to move on. Then Tuesday came, and everybody at the hospital was so nice and so pleasant, and they all really liked me. They really liked me. And I had people laughing, and we're talking metaphysics, and the anesthesiologist told me he was sorry he was going to have to put me out because he'd love to talk to me some more about meditation, which I apparently was talking about. And then, boom, you're out, and you wake back up. That's how it goes, right, Peggy? You've been there. You know. So, and then I woke up, and now I'm laying in a hospital for 24 hours, recuperating. And that's when the lean into the more started to really come to me. I was like, I don't feel like more. I feel like less right now. My energy feels less. I feel like, did it work? Right? Did it work? Even though I believe my life is unfolding perfectly. But did it work? Did it unfold perfectly? And I'm laying there and I'm in a little bit of pain and I'm not really happy with the look of how it looks when they're doing these things. And I got all this going on. And as I was laying there, and then Kevin, who has been the most amazing spouse anyone could ever hope to have, who slept by my side all night, stayed in the hospital, but he had gone home to walk the dogs. So I was laying there alone, and I was thinking, now I see what it's like when you have questions. Because I'm not a man of many questions when it comes to my faith. I'm pretty clear my life is unfolding perfectly. But these last, having 3 operations in a row, and just like, I don't like people cutting. I had a coronary arrest when I lost a molar. Really, I don't like the dentist taking out anything. So it was a little tough. So I was laying there, and I was thinking to myself, what do I need? Well, first of all, of course, I asked myself the first question, why am I here? It's nothing like when your own writing gets you back. Why am I here? And I'm going over this whole thing, and I'm like, what do I need? What do I really need? And so this prompted my talk title. Tell me that again. Because what I needed was a refresher course in science of mind. I needed to dive deep into what I knew to be the truth, that I was healthy. that everything happening to me was for the highest and best, no matter what. I know all of this. And in my heart, I knew all of this. But the physical side of it was showing me a whole different story. So I laid there and I thought, maybe this Sunday I won't give the first talk of the year. I'll let Karen give the first talk. And within 24 hours, that was out the window. I was like, I'm way too much of a control freak to let anybody do the first talk of the year. But I kept coming back to, what do I need? And I got this concept of, tell me that again. I needed to hear Dr. Walker again. And thank God I have cassettes of his. I needed to be reminded why I was standing on this stage. Why am I here? I could be anywhere. I could be relaxing somewhere. I needed to go back and ask myself, what is it that has you alive today? What is it? So I had to go back to basics. So I went back to the science of mind and spirit, to that book. Remember that book that we all read at one point? Yeah. I used to read that book every single year, top to bottom. I haven't done it for the last few years. I just started it again. Reading the science of mind from the beginning to the end. And there's a little thing in the back that shows you how to do it and where to go, how to get through that whole book in a year. But here's the thing. The science of mind is good. It's brilliant. It's Ernest Holmes' opus on what religion is, what spirituality is, what God is, what you are, who you are. It is amazing. But it was written in 1927. And for many of us, we're like, oh, I want the new stuff. I want quantum. I want what the new authors are writing about. But you know what I'm coming to discover? The new authors are writing about the same stuff. They are. They're writing the same stuff, just in a modern vernacular. Because what Ernest Holmes said makes amazing sense. He didn't have the proof. He just channeled that stuff from somewhere within him. And he was writing quantum before the word quantum was being used. So it really behooved me this week, to go back and start looking at, what was that again that he said? So I'm going to start with the foreword by Jean Houston. She said about the science of mind, this is a book for the ages. It contains the distilled wisdom of many eras, many cultures, and one great soul. To read it is to be changed. Well, frankly, I wanted to change again. I wanted to move beyond where I am. And I have taken this teaching. I have taken the science of mind, and I have expanded it, and I have pummeled it, and I have questioned it, and I have rewritten it. I have done so much to it. It was amazing that when I went back and read it again, I was like, you've done nothing. Because there it is. Exactly where you got to and where you're going was already there. You've just morphed. You've grown, as Ernest Holmes asked us to do. So I want to go over a few of the things, and it's funny, because usually in the first 4 Sundays of every January, we go over the first 4 chapters of the book. And that was not my intention. And yet here we go. So the study of the science of mind is the study of first cause, spirit, mind, or that invisible essence, that ultimate stuff and intelligence from which everything comes, the power back of creation, the thing itself. Want to give me one word that he's talking about? Consciousness, spirit. I'm looking for a word that's a little more divisive. God. Boy, have we taken God through the gutter. We have just made God a 4-letter word, and it's not. It's only 3 letters. But we have turned God into such a horrible, horrible thing. But you know why? Not because of the innate value of what God is, but because of what people have done with the concept of God. Yes. Right? How we've used it to fight one another. Your God is not as good as my God. Your religion's not the real religion. My religion's the real religion. And you know what? It's all a bunch of bull. Because at the end of the day, It is what it is, the thing itself. And I love that he went there. He just said, you know what? You can give me all your excuses and annoyances about this word, but at the end of the day, there is something, first cause, spirit, mind, whatever you want to call it, back of everything. And it's exactly what Paul and Peggy were talking about. There is more. And we have to start realizing there is more. That thing behind the wings on the birds is God. It's the thing itself. It's whatever word you want to use. But it is the more. So when I'm saying we need to be the more, I'm asking us to start living this thing of I am God. I am this energy, but not the only energy. I am, as Ernest Holmes says in 1959, I am of this. This is what I am. All of me is this. So I'm tired of us all worrying about walking around saying, I am God. I think we need to add something to that. I am God, and so is every living creature on this planet and beyond. That's the spiritual truth. So this thing behind the wings of the bird, Ernest Holmes called it something interesting. As I was reading this chapter, I was like, God, even this I've kind of sort of strayed away from, but not really. Because what Ernest Holmes called God is love. Emerson said that love is a synonym for God. God is love, love is God. But here we are in the quantum age. What does that mean? Well, it means that there is an energetic life force that's behind everything, that is more than anything we could imagine, that gives life and animates it all. So why not call it love? Why not be okay with calling it love? Because Ernest Holmes said it's love through law that creates our existence. So if there is this energy behind you that is back of everything, and it is the motivating factor, it is the animating feature of your life, and it's love and it's God, but it operates through this thing called law, which is inherently who you are. You are a lawmaker. Everything in your mind creates from this love because you think, and your thinking makes it so. Your belief makes it so, but your belief creates your thought. So if it's all love and it's all energy and it's all God, and there is this law that is inherent in this thing called love, and the law is always bringing you whatever you decide, that's the entire enchilada of the science of mind. He says we approach love through the law. We approach love through the law. Every thought you have, every desire that comes through you, every decision you make activates the law and lets love flow. That's how this works. It's really simple. So if I'm laying there in the hospital in my pity party, thinking that I don't know when I'm going to be able to open my shirt again to show the amazing chest that I've created, because I look a little like Frankenstein at the moment, what am I creating with that? What am I doing with that? Saying that somehow my body is who I am? What am I doing? And I had to ask myself that. I was like, okay, how much further, how much longer are you going to let this pity party go on? Because every second that you are thinking what you're thinking, believing what you're believing, maybe you believe you're less than. Oh, now I'm old. Oh, now I'm really going to look my age. Never. Now old age is going to creep in. All of those things, I'm sure anybody else have these thoughts occasionally? Yeah. So, really? She just went, ugh. So if I'm going to really let that be the way I am using love through law, create my life, I am completely screwed. That's what I got to, laying in that hospital. All of this while he's walking the dogs. It was very quick. But I did. I had to ask myself that. What am I going to do? So, within us is a mental law, working out the will and purposes of our conscious thoughts. Here's the most important part of that sentence. Your conscious thoughts. There's a line in the book where he says, trained thought is far more powerful than untrained thought. And what he says is, your conscious mind is way more powerful than all the crap you have put into your subconscious mind. Because let's face it, we've been around a while, most of us, except for Emily, right? We've been around a while. But we have a lot of stuff that we still believe. We still have all of those things. But your conscious mind, your conscious thought is what takes precedence. That's what the law is listening for. The law wants to know, Bear, what you really want, not all the other stuff that's going on. The law wants to know, Stan, exactly what you have decided to do with the rest of this time you have. And then it gives it to you. For most of us, it gives us a mishmash of what we want, what we don't want, what we're afraid of, what we think we had happen before that will happen again, all of that stuff. So it's about taking control of your mind. And this is one of my favorite quotes of Ernest Holmes. Mankind, by thinking, can bring into his or her experience whatsoever one desires, if they think correctly and become a living embodiment of those thoughts. There is an if there. I want you to notice that. So it's not just mankind, by thinking, can bring into his experience whatever one desires. It's not like, oh, I'm going to think this and that'll show up. No, because are you embodying what you're saying? Do you absolutely believe wholeheartedly? That's for Pam Ninneman, wholeheartedly. That's her theme for the year. Wholeheartedly, that this is the truth. I really had to come to that. I truly had to come to that. You know, the doctors are all telling me, you're going to be more than 100%. And yet I still had this fight going on in my head. And I had to really ask myself, do I believe that I am going to be standing up here very shortly at 600%? And the answer is yes, because ultimately I already am. I already am, and my body will catch up. That's how we have to look at this, because my mind is what's creating my body, and I cannot afford to let my mind cheat my body out of the fabulous life it's about to have going forward. Right, Kevin?
Absolutely.
Yes. So, I want you to look at the word embodiment. What does that mean? Embodiment means you have eaten it, chewed it up, digested it, and it's now expressing itself. That's it. Are you embodying what this teaching is? Are you really embodying it? 2024, be the more in 2024. This is our year to really take this teaching and really solidify it so that we are living extraordinary lives, Carol. Extraordinary lives, because we know who we are. He also said this: all thought is creative, according to the nature, impulse, emotion, or conviction behind the thought. I love that image, by the way. So all thought is creative. So you know what that means, unfortunately? It means that everything you're thinking is having some kind of effect on your life. Everything you're thinking. What's that word? Everything, Lisa. Everything you're thinking has some effect on your life. But who's thinking it? You are, Robbie, right? No one's forcing y'all to think what you think. And you can blame people. You can blame your mother. How many people are still blaming their mother? You can blame all the people you want to blame for the way you think. But guess what? If you're over 18, it's yours now. It's yours now, right? You left home, and you should have left all those things behind you. So, all thought is creative. The mind which we discover within us is the mind that governs everything. This is the thing itself. And we should recognize its simplicity. If I had $1 for every single person that told me that reading The Science of Mind was torture, They're like, oh, it is so thick. It's because you look at it and you get tortured just looking at it. But if you just took a page, or if you took the little section that asks you to read every morning, by this time next year, you will have read the whole book and actually understood when he's saying here, we should recognize its simplicity. Our philosophy, our teaching, our religion, and yes, it is a religion, or else you don't get your tax deduction at the end of the year. All of that, that thing called the science of mind is so simple. It's so simple to live. We just have to decide to live it. We have to decide to be it, to truly, truly be it. So, where does that leave us? Knowing all of this today, where does that leave us? And I'm happy to use myself as an example. I rarely get up here and tell you I've had a crisis of the soul. Truly, I really do. I rarely do that. And I haven't really had a crisis of the soul. I had a momentary brain fart. You all know what those are, right? Yeah. So I did. And it did bother me. But all I had to do was lean in to the teaching again. I had to go back and ask myself, why am I here? What wants to know me? And what wants to know me is the simplicity of this teaching, not the complexity of it. I love our advanced consciousness class where we go so deep that most of us have migraines by the end of it. I love that class. But at the end of the day, the answer is simple. It's really, really, really simple. Kevin and I were doing accounting yesterday, and he had a very different answer to a project we were closing the year on. He had a very different answer than I had. Not surprising. When we first met, he would add up the bowling scores. I would add up the bowling scores. His score was actually the same as my score, but he was infuriated at how I did it because I somehow add bowling scores different than professionals do it. So yesterday, we're sitting there, and he has this figure, and I have this figure, and I was like, oh my God, I'm supposed to be avoiding stress, A, and B, we're about to go bowling again. And so we just sat there calmly, figured it out. It was so simple. We had to take all of the complexities of what we did all year in this project and really bring it down to, you ready? Income versus expense equals what's left over. Right? Yep. That was it. That was it. And as it turned out, it was my answer that was correct. So, but I loved how you did it. It was really kind of interesting. So, the mind which we discover within us. Now, I want one more thing to tell you today. The mind that you discover within you. When we say there is one mind, there's one field of energy, one field of infinite intelligence, there is. We're all it. We are all in this fabulous mosaic of life. But each one of you, Marianne, you have an individual mind that uses all of it. That's the mind we're talking about when he says the mind we discover within us is the mind that governs everything. That's the I am God part. That mind that you have and that you're thinking with and making decisions with has at its disposal an infinite expanse of wisdom. There's nothing you don't know. There is nothing that any one of you in this room doesn't already have the answer to. The minute you lean into the more. Because as Paul's song says, and as Peggy's lyric says, there is more. And there is more. And there is more. So, this is what Ernest Holmes called this, man's greatest discovery. I just got to speak for 20 minutes on man's greatest discovery. The question is, did you discover it today? Did you figure it out today, how you're creating the life you're creating? What if today was the first day and you just showed up here and you heard this and a bell went off and you went, oh my God. Because that's what happened the day I heard David Walker. He said something and I was like, oh my God. That's the truth. That's the truth. And then I turned my entire life around. I stayed in Los Angeles. I was only here doing a show. I started taking classes. I became a practitioner. I became a minister, much to Kevin's chagrin. I opened a church. And here I am. Because that day, man's greatest discovery in the body of Dr. David Walker said something, and I went, yes, that's how it works. And then 30, 40 years later, I'm laying in a hospital going, what the, how, what, why? What do I need to know? And then that came right through me. You need to remember. You already know it. You just need to remember who you are. Everything else will work itself out. So there's man's greatest discovery. How excited would you be if today's the day you realized it, really got it, that this is what it's all about. This is who I am. Today's the day. Namaste. Thank you.